Who doesn't love being scared? There used to be tons of games that would jumpstart my heart, like Silent Hill, or Fatal Frame, or Wu-Tang Taste the Pain. But then we went through a bit of a drought.
Water!
Resi moved away from fear and onto bloated, stagnant, combat-orientated shite. Silent Hill had an aneurysm and just died off apparently, and there was very little to satiate my horror hunger. Whoa, whoa, whoa! What's this shambling over the horizon? Why, it's the past few years! God, that metaphor was tortured. But here's a slew of new games which made me shit my little pony pants. Huzzah! And with this in mind, I'm JulesWhatCulture.com, and here are 10 of the scariest video game moments of the decade so far. Number 10. Like a bat out of hell, Batman Arkham Knight. If you played through Arkham Knight, chances are you've already become well acquainted with Dr. Kirk Langstrom, also known as Man-Bat. I'm also willing to bet that after being frightened nearly to death with his introductory scene, you spent the next few hours bracing yourself every single time you clambered up the side of a building, and all you can do on the other side of your PC screen is just not move for risk of spreading the fecal matter you've just produced. Number 9. Dinner with the St. John family. Zombies. 1. Don't get bitten. 2. Always aim for the head. And 3. Don't try to romance one despite what Warm Bodies tells you. Usually that's enough to get you by, but sometimes things aren't as simple as avoiding the shambling things with the snapping jaws and infectious halitosis. Sometimes the friendly stranger who takes you in with the promise of food and shelter could be even deadlier than the reanimated corpse circling the forests. Such is the case with the St. John family, well-to-do farmers who take in Lee and company in their hideout when their safety seems compromised. A warm place to sleep, plenty of nice scenery, and hot plates of food. What's not to love? Everything's hunky-dory until Lee stumbles across a pair of doors that leads him to a room splattered with blood. And then the question arises, where do the St. John's family get their meat? Something that's answered very, very shortly after when Lee comes across one of his pals in an upstairs bathroom with his leg cut off. 3 guesses as to what everyone's chomping down around the dinner table downstairs. Number 8. Desperately scrambling for a light source. You know when you're walking down a street at night and you can't shake the feeling that somebody's following you through the bushes? Playing through Alan Wake is a bit like that. There isn't a whole lot that could be called truly horrifying, but what it lacks in gotcha type scenarios, it more than makes up for in mood and atmosphere. It's sort of like sitting in a chair with your back to a pitch black room. There's always the idea, no matter how paranoid or unrealistic, that something's gonna reach out, grab you by the neck and drag you into the shadows like your mum when she wants ugh bang bang time. Except in Alan Wake, that's an actual concern. Not your mum, of course, but the darkness. As the Taken are more powerful when they're shrouded away, and they'll keep coming at you unless you can find a light source to fight them off with. Most of us were afraid of the dark at some point in our lives, and it's such a primal fear that sometimes all it takes is a right set of circumstances to awake the childlike terror. And in this case, playing the game with the lights off, the sound up, and the sun down goes a long way towards setting the mood. Number 7. Moira Asylum. Thief. Despite not being a horror franchise, the Thief series has flirted with the genre on more than one occasion, and the reboot continues their tradition with yet another horror-centric level in an abandoned asylum, or as it's known to filmmakers as the Murder Factory. Right from the get-go, the doors slam behind you as you enter the asylum, establishing that malevolent entities have indeed taken up residence in the building. From there, it's a test of sheer fortitude as you make your way into the bowels of the asylum. All the familiar horror tropes are here on display, but it's so well crafted that it never becomes predictable. And as you encounter one unexplainable event after another, you'll be tempted to scout out every room before entering to maintain some semblance of control. That would definitely be a mistake though, as the developers anticipated this very reaction. Number 6. Failing to survive the night. Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's puts you in the shoes of Mike Schmidt, the night watchman at Freddy's Fazbear's Pizza. Old Mikey whiles away the hours doing exactly what you'd expect a man of his position to do, staring at a wall of security cameras for hours on end. Although to be honest, if it was me in there, I'd have music on, pizza on the table, and a sight more doors that don't require energy to close. Five Nights at Freddy's setup is relatively simple. You're given control of the camera feed as well as doors on both sides of the security room, and every time you cycle through the various viewpoints or close the doors, battery power is drained. If you happen to run out of juice, then boy oh boy, you're in for a treat. Probably seen by everyone and their dead nan by now, but the jump scares in this game are enough to retract your balls. Good, clean, robot murdery fun. Number 5. That damn spider. Limbo. Limbo's a creepy game, no doubt about it. I mean, look at that boy's head. Look at it. That thing should not be the way that it is. I don't like it. The black and white tones lend themselves to the eerie atmosphere, cloaking environments in deep shadow and cultivating an almost primal fear of hidden threats. It'll have you jumping at shadows, especially when there's a real chance that a massive spider will crawl out of the darkness and impale you on its legs. A giant, hairy spider. Grim Fandango. Just when you thought you'd move past that little phobia, Limbo rips the scab off and pours salt in the wound. And what's really creepy about this particular moment is just how quiet it is, that there's no snarling or snapping, it's just an eerie silence that somehow managed to make the giant spider even more scarier than it already is. Number 4, never knowing what form death would take. DayZ. Most games in the horror genre use tight scripting in order to manipulate audiences into feeling the fears. Controlled sections in which you see a chair fall over or a figure rush out of sight all serve to build tension. By contrast, DayZ excels in embracing the unpredictability inherent in online multiplayer. You're just as likely to be gunned down by other survivors as you are ravished by a horde of zombies. It was impossible to predict what form death would take as you stalked through the wilderness collecting supplies and doing your damnedest not to get cornered. Before long, paranoia began dictating your actions as more often than not players had their own interests in mind, leaving you to second-guess the sincerity of every offer of companionship. Fear ruled the day, and when you toss in the fact it was possible to die from starvation or infection before you even came into contact with the undead, the sheer oppressiveness of the open world was an entity in itself. Number 3, being consistently paranoid about making the wrong choices. Until Dawn. Branching narratives are nothing new in gaming, and while you'll occasionally come across a title which treats decision-based gameplay with a level of depth and weight, all too often developers are content to simply offer a smattering of paltry colour-coded choices with outcomes that barely change anything other than a line of dialogue. Which is why Until Dawn is such a breath of fresh air. Fresh, stalkery-filled, murdery air. The game's butterfly effect ensures that every decision you make, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, has real consequences for the characters. And with an autosave system that restricts your ability to simply fall back on reloading saves until you get the right combination, Until Dawn went out of his way to instill players with a deep-seated paranoia. You never knew when the character you've grown so fond of hating would bite the dust in the most gruesome way imaginable because of one bad decision. Chances are you'd end up with half the cast dead, cursing the day you chose to make them eat a cheese sandwich rather than a ham and mustard one. Rookie mistake, come on, Jules! Number 2, playing cat and mouse with the Xenomorph. Alien Isolation. If the thought of a faceless silent stalker of the night cutting you deeper than your first ex in a bathroom scares you, then you're gonna love Alien Isolation. As in its place, you have an 8-foot-tall alien with razor-sharp teeth relentlessly hunting you down, and now the bathroom is in space. Your initial encounter with the titular alien is guaranteed to leave your nerves shot for the remainder of the game. And the very act of crossing from one cluster of shadows to another is enough to make you doubt harder than Gwen Stefani at a metal gig in the early 2000s. Most of you probably won't get that pun. Given the largely randomised nature of the encounters, there was just no way of knowing when the Xenomorph would crawl out of a hole, drop into a room and sniff about mere inches from the desk you were huddled under, trying to desperately hide the smell of space poo from wafting through your space britches. Add to this that the urge to dash to safety was tempered by the knowledge that the Xenomorph would close the distance between you two in mere seconds, leaving you impaled on the end of its tail. I tell you something, you've got a situation here more tense than me filming an amateur gymnastics event. Number 1, every single second. PT. 2 words, deformed fetus. If there's anything that'll guarantee to haunt your every waking moment for weeks, months, and probably even years after experiencing PT, it's the sight of a crying, deformed fetus lying in a grungy, disease-ridden sink. And that's just the first volley. Every loop ramps up the intensity, and before long you're clutching your emotions, desperately trying not to weep like a deformed fetus. It's not easy to evoke terror on such a primal level the way that PT has, but the teaser strings along scares and builds upon each one with such masterful pacing that the end result is not unlike a nightmare, in that it wraps itself around your brain and warps every fibre of your reality. PT was the best damn thing this genre's seen in decades, and it's a downright tragedy that we'll never see what Del Toro and Kojima had up their sleeves. Fingers crossed for Death Stranding, though, which seems to look like it has at least the baby quota filled, but with more dead fish. And that's our list. When's the last time that you were scared of a game that wasn't Wii Fit telling you that you were just obese? Drop us a message in the comments section below, and if you want to stalk me in the night, you can do so here and here. If you enjoyed the video, then like, share, and subscribe. I've been Jules, WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.